Namaste. Welcome all to Candid Convos, a thought leadership initiative of Lead Fact Solutions. In the eighth episode today, we have the pleasure of having Krista Sheets with us. Krista firmly believes that people are an organization's greatest asset. She has built her career around one simple but powerful idea: return on people, ROP. As president of Competitive Edge and Paragon Resources, Krista helps leaders unlock the potential of their teams by blending science, strategy, and a genuine passion for human development. For more than 25 years, Krista has worked with Fortune 500 companies, Wall Street firms, government agencies, and countless teams across industries. Her certification credentials include Adaptability Quotient AQ Level 2 Professional, Licensed AQAI Certification Delivery Partner, EQI 2.0 and 360 Trainer, DISC and Motivators Certified Master Consultant, and much more. Krista uses these tools not just for assessment, but to create measurable growth and stronger team dynamics. She has a unique gift for turning complex data into practical strategies that help leaders better understand their people and in turn drive performance. Under her leadership, Competitive Edge became one of the first AQAI global training partners, pioneering adaptability assessments worldwide. Her companies have been recognized among the top 10 HR assessment service providers, and she herself is widely respected as a, within quotes, trainer of trainers.
Mhm.
Krista is also co-author of the book No Service: 5 Steps to 5-Star Service for Financial Professionals, a resource many in the financial services industry still rely on today. She often says, people are your organization's value. To win them, you need to learn their actions, reactions, and what drives them. That's the playbook she has been helping leaders write for nearly 3 decades. Today, we are going to discuss with Krista about adaptability quotient AQ, its practical applications, success stories, and many more aspects. Thanks once again, Krista, for
Well,
making
thank
it
you so
forward.
much. Yes, thank you for the invitation. This is all new to me to do podcasts, and I welcome this conversation with you today. So thank you.
Sure. Thanks. Looking forward. See, we will, start with your early days. Krista, what I understood, from your profile is you started your career in a corporate, been there for, short stint of 3 years, then moved to your family business and became a successful leader. Looks very interesting. Can you please share this
Yeah,
with us, this
yeah.
interesting journey?
Yeah, actually, most of my career has been really in the foundation of small business ownership. And it's because as a little girl, I went into our flower shop. It was one of the largest flower shops in the country. My father
Right.
actually had about 3 dozen franchises, and he really taught a lot of people in the industry of how to have like 1-800 flowers, which is a very big concept here. He actually had that gentleman as being one of his franchise owners. So as a little kid, I went in and priced flowers and loved small business ownership and what it could do in small communities and the impact it had. Went to school at Boston University. I got too impatient, which patience has always been a challenge for me. But I was a
Okay.
little impatient and graduated in 3 years instead of four, and went back to the family business. I did
Okay.
do a couple of, projects here or there in some local businesses in Boston, but for the most part, that was my foundation, was really growing up in the family business, and then realized maybe I couldn't work for daddy anymore because I grew up. His daddy's little girl grew up, and so that's when I got into now what I'm doing today by moving to Atlanta, Georgia. almost 30 years ago. And I cringe every time I say that now. I did it when I
Great.
was a little girl, I guess, when I started it, and it makes me feel better. So yeah, that's been
Sure.
my short history in the long time ago.
Got it. So those 3 years in the corporate would have helped you to better understand the team dynamics, to understand the business nuances, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it expanded when I came into working with my first company, Paragon Resources, and that really expanded going to the financial services industry. All of the Wall Street firms, what we did work with, and still continue to
Mm,
do work with, is where I really started seeing the real benefits of teams,
right.
and realizing that the way my father's leadership style, was a disconnect for me.
Right.
That he would just yell at people to do their job, and he didn't really look at role definition and job descriptions and really align people's strengths to things that we should be doing today. And so I think some companies don't do still, but that's really kind of how I got into understanding human behavior, is really from the financial services industry, and trying to put together great teams.
Great. So is that what was the trigger for you to pursue your academics in human behavior? And
Mhm.
how what are all the efforts that you took to build your competence in that area?
Yeah, I took my very first assessment when I was 26 years old,
Okay.
trying to get the job that Paragon Resources, my first company, was hiring me for. I ended
Okay.
up fast forwarding. I ended up buying that company later on, in a decade later. But when I was looking at this assessment tool, and I was like, oh my goodness, this explains so much of my first couple decades of why I connected with some people, or why I was communicating great with some people and why I wasn't, why my
All
father and
right.
I couldn't really work together. So when I found that first really scientifically validated assessment, it was a DISC and motivators. It's actually a company called TTI here in the States, in Scottsdale, Arizona. They're the very first company that ever had a computerized DISC and motivators assessment. I just fell in love with it, and
Okay.
I have a thirst for knowledge, and I just wanted to dig deeper. So that's what made me start, is getting assessed, by an incredible assessment tool.
Right. 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 Great.
Hmm.
So, we are all very familiar being in the business about ROI. We are used to listening to this return on investment, but when you talk about ROP and your passion was very visible,
Hmm.
this aspect. So, what is
Hmm.
ROP?
Yeah, yeah. ROP, return on people.
Okay.
My viewpoint of that is, I see a lot of organizational leaders of all different size companies, all different size organizations, government agencies, everything. They look at development of their people as an expense. They don't look at it as an investment. And I want to make sure people understand the value that really comes in a company is when we look at the people of the company. And they're your unique factor.
Yes.
I love technology. I love all different products. I love all different solutions that companies provide and organizations provide. But it truly comes down to the value of the people. And so
Hmm.
taking that mindset shift of that, this is not an expense, it's an investment, to help the person become the best version of who they are, to have them really shine in the light, to have them really a superstar. You have to
Right.
invest in them in all different areas. We focus so much on what they call those soft skills, but we call them power skills because we think they're essential today in order to be super powerful and a great human. So we really feel that you've got to take the perspective of, you've got to invest in your people. That will then turn into a great return in your organization with productivity, less stress, more efficiencies, more profits, and a
Hmm.
better community that organization is creating too, that it surrounds it. So that's where I look at with ROP, or return on people.
Okay. So, yeah, basically, premise is that people are the biggest asset that any company can have.
Yeah, yeah, any company can have, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
And see, towards this journey, you have done certification under DASC, DISC, and
Mhm.
EQA 2.0. So in fact,
Mhm.
I am also DISC certified for PPA,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
EQA 2.0 I am familiar with, though I am not certified. So in that
Mhm.
way, can you briefly talk about these tools and how you are using this in measuring the human behavior?
Yeah, and it actually goes back to that first assessment again. That first assessment was a DISC assessment, also a motivators assessment.
Mm,
And the lady that generated the report, who was a consultant to the person that was hiring me,
mm.
said, she didn't meet me, she didn't interview me, she didn't know anything about me. She just looked at the assessments, and out of 3 people, she said, "You want this one," and I was that one. And I was
Okay,
like, okay. So then I got lucky because she taught me everything I know about those 2 foundational models, kind of the how and the why of the behavior. And there
yeah,
are many different DISC companies out there, but as I mentioned, this is the company that had the very first computerized one. And a lot of
right.
companies have been offshoots of this particular company's methodology. Well, because I learned under her, we have a thing about first around here. Her company, Competitive Edge, and that's where
Yeah,
you're going to find out I'm a 2-timer. I've bought 2 companies over the years now.
right.
Competitive Edge was the very first company to be the distributor for that very first computerized assessment. With her knowledge, as well as her exposure to the people that have created the DISC assessment industry,
Right.
I got to
Okay.
train under them. So I got the OG, the original godfathers, mostly godfathers, some godmothers in there too, but the original people that created the industry. That foundation has really been helpful for me because I can definitely understand the competitive marketplace and how there's good versions of discs, some not so
Mm,
good, and some even more damaging ones that people have misunderstand the model. Motivators is a secondary model that most people don't know about, and that one I think is more actually important because it talks about the why, what you do.
mm,
Why do you do what you do? Why do you make the decisions that you make? And
mm,
so if I can understand my behavioral model, I can understand my energy factors, what energizes me. If I understand my motivators, I then can say, I can understand what's going to give me engagement in the conversation, engagement in my work, engagement in my life. And then something in the mid 90s came around before I got into this industry, but EQI 2.0, MHS, Multi Health Services up in Toronto. That company had the very first, again, you're going to hear me say that a couple of times because you're going to get to the one where we share on of the adaptability,
mm.
but EQ is the very, MHS's version of it, is the very first computerized, scientifically validated assessment. And so, again, my mentor who founded this company, Judy, she said she wanted to be a training partner for that company. So I was in her first training class and loved that element of adding on a skill set of not only
Mm.
recognizing and managing my own emotions, but how to use that for wiser decisions and interactions with people. So then the next one is the AQ, which is where we share how we've met in the community. Do you want me to go through
Yes.
that one, or do you want to ask me another question and all that? I know I've
Yeah, in
said a
fact,
lot.
my next question was about AQ actually. Yeah, before
Yeah.
that, Krista, no, on this DISC EQI and all. Yeah, as I said, like, to some extent, yeah, I am familiar with EQI and also DISC. I am certified there.
Mm-hmm.
See there, how far any tool for that matter, including AQ, with your vast experience, you feel like it is, safe in terms of, when I say safe, from the organization's point of view, that the candidate would not fake it. How far
No,
do you
yeah,
think? Yeah. So that is
yeah.
one question repeatedly that's being asked even by my client. Like, what if the candidate fake it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In most of my work, it's all on the development side, first of all. So that means that it's all for personal and professional development within organizations. It's not for hiring and selection, where
Right.
you're going to see a little bit more of that forced responses potential in any kind of an assessment tool or skills competency test that can be given to someone. What I have discovered is a couple of things. First of all, it's got to be great assessment that you're using. We've got some indicators in our particular DISC and motivators that will allow for us to maybe potentially see forced responses or where someone's trying to fool the assessment. EQI also has that. It's extremely rigid, actually, in their research on it. They actually can look at any kind of negative bias or positive bias
Mm,
in the assessment respondent, the way they responded to the questionnaire. So there's some great elements to the actual scientific development of these assessment questionnaires. Also, I think the main thing is that the assessment is set up properly. Before someone
mm,
actually goes and clicks on a link that they randomly got in an email, it really needs to have people to understand that this is for your development, this is for your awareness, this is for your benefit. And with your benefit, we're going to see a benefit as an organization if you're the best version of who you are. If it's said in a very positive tone like that, not what I have seen in some companies, and I refuse to work with them, used as a weapon, used as something where we're seeing performance issues and we're going to put this in their file because it's going to, get a point or a case together of why we don't want you here. I never work in that. I mean, in my almost 30 years now of doing this, I do say no to people if they're not going to use the assessments properly. So it's all in the invitation. It's all in the science and the validation of the actual questionnaires that are used in these models of behavior, as well as emotional intelligence, and as well as our adaptability intelligence too. So that's where I think it's always in the setup is going to help people.
Yeah. So every tool has got its own way of proofing the fake, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And it's a lot because there's a lot of data that's collected. There's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of research that you get into a little bit of psychology. The other thing I forgot to mention, everything that we're looking at with DISC, motivators, EQ, and AQ, we're only looking at functional behavior. We're not like clinical psychologists. We are not people that are looking for the abnormalities or the dysfunctions. We're not getting into that in any of these assessment models that are helping people understand how and why behavior or building their soft skills to interact and communicate with people more effectively. We're not looking at any dysfunction, as I always like to say.
Yeah, that's a great point, Krista, what you made. Somehow, I feel like Martin Seligman is one of the forefathers of using this psychological tool for positivity. Why to use psychology only for finding out negatives or why something is going wrong? Why not use it to say how people are doing it right, so that we can emulate it to some extent? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why so many people say, well, we need to work on your weaknesses, or they'll make it a different word. We're working your limitations. No, we want to work on your strengths. We come from a strengths-based kind of perspective. How do we capitalize, again, getting back to that ROP, return on people, how do we capitalize on your strengths, your unique abilities, your strengths of being able to do certain kind of work over other work? Doesn't mean you have a weakness. It means that we want to make you the superstar that you should be. And that's why I'm so big on teams. Not one person can't do everything. There's no possible way. We have to have effective interactions with others and maximize all those relationships with people. So yeah, you got to come from a strength, not a weakness.
Exactly. So in fact, even in my discourse, wherever I talk about this, I always use the word areas of improvement, not weakness.
Yeah.
So I would say no human being is weak. There are some areas of improvement which you focus on and take it forward. And another interesting thing which I come across with some of my candidates and clients is that okay, let us not talk about strengths. Let us get into areas of improvement. I say no, that's not the way to deal. No, go with that. First, first understand your strength, so you can not be in a position to comprehend your areas of improvement and complement your strengths and areas of improvement, so that you can work on that. So it's always
totally
good
agree.
to know the strength. It's good to know the strength.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go towards the light, go towards the positivity. I mean, rather than go towards the dark. I mean, we need both darkness and lightness, but we want to make sure people are shining, in these organizations. And what I am finding, I don't know about you with your work with your clients, but I am finding some of the younger generation is having a little bit of challenge of self-awareness. And any good assessment should really build a great conversation. Facilitated discussion. It's not trying to, that's why I don't do the selection so much using these assessment tools, is because it seems so cut and dry and that there's you're screening people out rather than having a discussion to learn more about someone by using a validated assessment model. I think that's really the purpose of any great assessment, is to open up those discussions and have some good language to use to do that.
Yeah. See, now coming to AQ, adaptability quotient. So can you just share your journey, how you got introduced to AQ?
Yeah, I love to.
Journey of L1, L2, and you are one of the delivery partners. Now.
Yeah, I am. Yes. So it's been an interesting journey. So a few years back, I would say probably about 8 years ago, I started wanting to know a little bit more about the impact of stress on productivity in organizations. And so I was looking for some different assessment tools because I always believe you got to understand anything by like having a measurement or having a dialogue and having a language to use. So I was looking for how to not necessarily just look at the mental and physical elements of how stress impacts a person, but what does that ultimately mean for an organization's productivity and profitability? And so I was looking at all different things, and MHS, that EQI 2.0 provider, has a hardiness scale, and I was like, it's good, not that great. I mean, I'm very particular on my assessment tools that I use, and I had a great consultant friend of mine show me AQAI's AQ Me report. And I immediately took it and I was like, wow. First of all, the experience of the chatbot, Ada, as you know, we call her, the chatbot experience, it was a new way of doing an assessment tool. Actually, it's the only company that has ever kind of trademarked, patented that process of taking an assessment using a chatbot. And I was just like, wow. And then when I read the report and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And I was like, I need to know more. And so I sought out AQAI directly and I said, all right, when's the next training program? They're like, yeah, we've got one coming up. And so in January 2021, I took my first level 1 training. That was in more the original version of it, which it's changed and evolved so much over the years. And again, I was like, all right, what else do I need to know here? Because I want to be a train the trainer. That's all my model is train the trainer. And they're like, well, we're going to do a level 2. I'm like, okay, where is it? Like, I got really hungry for it. I just fell in love with the model, fell in love with the organization in the UK. And they said, well, we're going to build a level 2 certification. I'm like, okay. I go through that. I was in the very first class for that in September of 2021. And then I'm like, all right, what else do I need to do in order to do this training? And they're like, well, we don't have, like, again, we're building it because everything was a startup at that time. And they said, well, we're going to have something called Certified Delivery Partner. I'm like, okay, where's the training? So in March of 2022, I did that training along with some other organizations, one in France, one in Canada, and a couple other people. And out of that, I was like, I'm ready to go. And I started doing my delivery of the training, what we would call L1, that first level is now what I'm certified delivered. And I'm the first one on that. I'm very proud of that because I completed all the requirements. I had the co-founder Ross shadow me to sign off and say that I can continue on. And since then, since 2022, we've been bringing in additional partners and what we call practitioners, people that are internal in an organization, like an L&D development person or an HR person who wants to go enterprise-wide with the adaptability intelligence. So I just fell in love with it. I actually committed a lot of time to them because we've developed the product, we've developed the training. It's on its 3rd version now. It's just only expanding, and it's been reinvigorating for me because, again, after doing this for 20 some years, and I was getting a little tired, bored maybe, and wanting the next thing, and this has been definitely fulfilling me for the last 5 years. So very happy about being their partner now, and partner in crime, as I like to say, partner in training.
Partner in leaving no one left behind.
Exactly, and that mindset, that mission that they have, and it so co-aligns with what I believe. I used to do some coaching, I used to do some consulting, but I felt my impact was kind of limited. It wasn't as much as I wanted it to be. And I felt that my gift really was training other people to know what I know, to create the mini me's, as I called them. And that's where I really felt that was my, best and highest use, is doing that train the trainer model so that I can train other people. The great foundational understanding of these models of understanding people, they are all unique. They do not, there's no crossover, there's complementary elements of them, but they are very distinct reasons of why, we have these 4 models, understanding kind of like the 4 layers of a person, that creating all these other people to go out there and impact these organizations, or coaches and consultants like you can impact people if I do a good job of the training. That's what really gives me the joy, is really helping people, as many people as we can, really lives up to that AQAI mission.
Yeah, that's good. Can you share some significant application of AQ in industries Krista,
Yeah.
and some of the results achieved. No, I don't want any sensitive information. You may have NDA signed with them.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
let it be at a very broad level. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I get exposed to a lot of different folks because I do train other coaches and consultants, as well as I have some of my own clients that I've trained internally in organizations. My area primarily is financial services and the U.S. government, mostly in law enforcement. So the federal government, what we would call our U.S. Marshals, any kind of federal and governmental kind of law enforcement entity. U.S. Marshals is a big one. There's also an organization called FLETC, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. They train every police officer, every sergeant, anybody of all different levels, whether it be local, state, or federal. And so that's my primary area. I've also seen it a little bit in manufacturing. And really getting into the innovation and transformation of an organization is where that kind of focus has been in the manufacturing world. What I have seen mostly in these exchanges, it's mostly in leadership development, where they're trying to help the leaders of the future develop these skills, develop these awareness of how to deal with all the uncertainties, all the confusion, all of the changes that are going on. And the results, what I'm mostly seeing is people implementing this is building their own content, using existing content and putting a new wrapper around it of understanding of why they would want to develop. So a lot of evergreen content is being built to help people with increasing their leadership skills by having that bigger awareness. That's primarily been my exposure to it. Now, I do have one of my partners that I brought in, one of the coaches that I brought in. His name is Randy. He does a lot of work in sales training and how salespeople can evolve with the times. Like back in COVID days, they had to evolve pretty drastically because you couldn't go on site anymore. You had to do a lot of virtual sales. He has built his programs around adaptability intelligence and helping people uncover how to be more innovative, how to be more creative, how to be more effective in the sales process. So yeah, there's been a lot. There's a lot in nonprofit too, with some other people that I know that we've trained, the nonprofit organizations. And those folks are trying to figure out how to get more donations, how to, keep up with fundraising, how to keep up with the evolution of what's going on in their world of people having limited attention span. I mean, I know there was like a study years ago that said the limitation or the attention span of a person is like a goldfish time span. I think it's actually gotten worse. So I don't know what that is. So we're constantly being attacked with all of this information. How do you really flow through that and create and transform and reinvent organizations and entities to be more effective in the future? I think it's getting crazy. And that's why I think the adaptability intelligence gives you that flow factor, that ability to set some really high expectations of how to get through any of the things that are outside of our control and really become change leaders rather than just reacting to everything that's going on around people. So that's what I'm primarily seeing: leadership development and innovation and reinventing companies and organizations.
Sure. So even in our market here, I find it more as a development tool, unlike DISC or other tools where it is used predominantly in recruitment, identifying the right candidate. Here also it is used more of AQ, and I find for development it is very apt, AQ.
Yeah, that's great.
And see, in terms of this relevance of AQ in today's business world, Krista, what is your view, especially with particular reference to our ACE model, ability, character, and environment? How do you see it relevant now as well as in future?
Yeah, great question. And I love the ACE model. I think it was a genius model to create. I love that it's talking about the abilities, the character, and the environment. I know you had Ross on as a previous guest who created that wonderful model. First of all, I look at that model as a great way for people to have conversations at all different levels within an organization. I think it's important to have that kind of quotient, that measurement, to have it from everybody in an organization. So that's what's really great about adaptability intelligence and the ACE model, is that you can gather this information on all different levels. It's not just the C-suite or the top they are getting the voices of everyone in the organization spoken by using the assessment tool. And the ACE model, because it does have some characteristics of development of those muscles that we can stretch or strengthen, of our grit and our mental flexibility and our mindset and our resilience and unlearnability. We can build on those muscles if we need to at different times of our career or different phases of an organization's needs. We can understand what's going to give us the most lift and leverage, That character side of the model, looking at those traits of what are my go-to default modes when change and uncertainty is going on, what's going to give me the oomph to do the change, to get through the uncertainties. I think that's key for leaders to have, is communication to their people and vice versa, that they understand how to properly communicate and get the needs of the organization through the organization. The last element is the one that I'm thrilled about, because you don't usually see all three of these together under one model or under one assessment, is looking at the environment. And that environment, the one thing about environment, I always ask the leaders, are you ready for what you're going to get out of this? And they're like, what do you mean? This is not just going to be a survey that you're going to just throw in and look at people's engagement, ask them their opinions on things, and then not do anything about it. You're going to have to do something probably in this environment section of the model. And that's where I think that's the most powerful element of it, is when it comes to the leadership, is understanding you are truly getting into the team psychological safety. You're getting into your processes and workflow. Do you really encourage people to fail and they be okay with it, because it's within failure that you have so much of the learning? Or are you encouraging people being more innovative and creative and thinking about moonshot ideas? And again, I know that Ross talked about moonshot with you. It's making sure that we are really looking to see how that environment is either facilitating people's development or holding them back. So that's why I love the ACE model to explain it. It's a great language to use. Everyone needs to do it in an organization. I know people usually start at the top and then they work down. I think it's something where you've really got to take it from all different aspects of an organization to really get an understanding. And with all the, and see, this is where I have my kind of 4 E's. I was talking about engagement. I was talking about energy with our motivators and our discs, talking about emotions with EQ. I've actually said, in my opinion, and I know there's a couple of people in the community might want to have a debate on this, and I'm ready for it. I would love to have this conversation. People always talk about managing your emotions, but with so much being thrown at us, so many events in life right now, in work, in society, in economic times, in world news, in wars, in all social media, all these things that I call them events. There's so many of them. If we don't figure out how to be more adaptable and more intelligent in our adaptability, I think we're going to never get to we're just going to default to the emotion of scared, disgust, fear, afraid, kind of thing. And so that's why I think adaptability intelligence really comes as more important than emotional intelligence today, because we've got to be able to manage those events more effectively as an individual, as a team, and as an organization. So we'll see. Well, I like to have that debate in our community one day.
Sure. And with the rapid business, socio-political environment, with all the changes that's happening, I think this is becoming all the more, necessary. It's no more a luxury to have AQ, it's becoming a necessity actually.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to exist, there's another E word. If you want to exist and not just exist, you want to actually thrive. I think you're going to have to, these organizations are going to have to start thinking about the importance of what is the time span it takes to implement even just new technology. I mean, everyone's going to talk about AI, but you're going to go down a path of implementing technology and you may think it's going to take, 60 days, 90 days, and it ends up taking a year. Well, that's because you haven't figured out how your people are responding, reacting, and moving forward towards that change. They can actually be your hindrance. They can actually hold you back. And that's why things are taking longer to get implemented, because they're not taking care of the adaptability intelligence. They're not making their people wiser on how to be adaptable. So I'm hoping. I think a lot of people are starting to realize the importance of it.
Yes, of course. We hope so. And see, what would be your piece of advice to people, those who are contemplating to take up AQ certification, Krista? What would you tell them?
Yeah, what I tell them, I first of all want to know why. Why did this pique their interest? Like, what was
Mm,
of curiosity? Why are they doing it? Is this just to have another certification, or are you going to actually do something with it? So that's me again with my return on whatever. I want to make sure you're investing in something that you're going to make different decisions. You're ready to help, do something different in the organization to develop it, to be more of a competitive edge or advantage to the industries that you're in. So I do want to know, first of all, what do you hoping to accomplish? I then say,
mm,
what's the support that you're going to have to do this in the organization? Often I'm dealing with HR directors, I'm dealing with L&D directors, and then their instructors. So making sure that they have some people on staff that can build some content that relates to their organization, as well as can understand how to use this model within their organization. I'm the kind of person that says you got to start small. What I have discovered being in this now almost 5 years with AQAI is you can do so much with the model. You can go down and transform an organization. You can do succession planning. You can do leadership development. You can do team development. You can do burnout, making people burnout resistant, future-proof your employee. I mean, the list of options of how to use this great content is massive. I always try to make sure we got to go down kind of a narrow path to get some wins, some successes, so that people can then become the role models within the organizations and demonstrate the model in action, that then you can
mm,
go and expand on it in different avenues of how to use the content. I do not see any of the work that we do, and especially more so than any of the other models that I do with the DISC motivators and EQ. I see it a little bit more, but this one I see it's not a one and done. You are constantly, or should be constantly, using the model, constantly reassessing, because people can evolve in their results based on their development, based on their scenarios, based on their environment changing. It's a fluid process of using AQMe and the AQ team reports. It should constantly be considered throughout any career path for a person, as well as an organization's kind of life cycle where it is in its existence. So it's not a one and done. It's not do it once, have a great session, throw it in a drawer. It's a working
mm.
document for decision making, definitely.
So you would say, like, start with why, like Simon Sinek says.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
start with why.
Yeah. Why are we doing this? And who's
Mm,
the support system to make sure that we can do something with it and not just leave it as a knowledge transfer? We want to do something with it. So that's good. Yeah, I like it. I like cynic
Great.
stuff.
Yeah. Now about the book co-authored by you, Krista,
Mhm.
like No Service, 5 Steps to 5-Star Service for Financial Professionals. Can
Mhm.
you briefly share about that book?
Yeah, I have a few books in my head, but that's the one that I gave birth to. And I say gave birth to because I had a wonderful co-author with me,
Okay.
Sarah Dale, also from the UK, originally. She's here in the States now. But she and I got together, hit it off, and we, in 9 months, yes, some people are like shocked, wrote a book on the 5 steps to 5-star service for financial professionals, because that at the time was the main industry I was working in. And
Mm,
she came from the industry and did a lot of leadership development in there. And we were just like sticklers for details of great experiences for our clients. Great
mm,
team experience, great client experience. And so that book was birthed remotely back in the days when it really wasn't a lot of remote or virtual learning. We still were doing that early. I guess we try to do things early. And we put together the book to help with a lot of tools, a lot of resources on looking at a wealth advisory team and making sure they are getting ROP with their people, but also making sure they're creating an incredible, delightful experience that no one else can compete with them in the marketplace. Because in all honesty, and now we look forward, that was back in 2007 when we wrote that book.
mm,
If I look at today's world, now everybody's going on ChatGPT or following some other kind of AI advice for financial professionals. And some of it actually is pretty good. So the financial professionals probably should be a little scared but they won't be scared if they get to the human interaction and they get to the uniqueness that only they can bring based on their people. So that's where it's still a great book to help people really fine-tune their service deliverables and make it that experience that a client will not want to go to ChatGPT for any financial advice. They want to go to the person, the human, and really get engagement with them. So that's why we birthed that in 9 months. I'm shocked that we did it so quickly, but two disciplined women that said we're going to get this done. We've been wanting to do it. I think it was mostly because we were a little disappointed in general client service or customer service out there, and it was like, this is how it should be, you know, and so we defined it. So it was a fun process.
Great, you know. And you know, incidentally, my first book got published yesterday, and it's available now.
Congratulations! That's wonderful.
Yes. So in that way, you know, we also completed it in a year. Actually, we took quite some time because it's about process facilitation in Indian context, and yeah, that's how it is. So
great. I'm glad you got it out there. It's not an easy process. And now I know some people that have written dozens of books and it just kind of blurts out of them. I don't know how, but they just get it out. For me, it was a little bit more of that back and forth and really trying to brainstorm with somebody, but getting that content out into the world, I think, is so valuable. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks, Krista. And you know, I'll be starting my next book in a couple of months from now.
Oh, good for you.
So, you know, I got fascinated about this experience.
Yeah. Well, good. It fed you. It fed your heart, and it made you want to keep on going on it. That's great.
Sure. And you know, about the host of services.
Yeah, the line broke up a little bit, but I think you're asking about our services at Competitive Edge, and you know, it's real simple. It's real deliberate. That we are train the trainers. We train other people these great 4 different models, and we facilitate and help people support them in assessment, development, and use within their organizations enterprise-wide. That is primarily it. Now, Competitive Edge is all different industries, where Paragon Resources is only focused in the financial services industry. Our services are that train the trainer model. It's helping people utilize these great assessment models in their organizations most effectively. We provide ongoing support and service of those assessments and delivery of using those assessments and helping them continually be educated on how to use them most appropriately in their organization. So that is what we primarily do. Now, Paragon Resources is focused in the financial services industry, whereas Competitive Edge really works in any industry. So I really thank you, Ramesh, for this invitation to do the podcast today. It's been fun talking with you. I know we haven't personally met, but I hope to meet you soon in the AQAI community events. And we have some good time sharing our stories about helping clients implement AQ in their businesses. Take care.
Thanks.